thank you to this week's edition of Capitol Confidential. Representative Jones is still on the House Democratic Caucus Zoom Saturday morning. She'll join us hopefully shortly. But in the meantime, we've got Baird Campbell, our comms director. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to visit with him about what we're doing to keep the word out as Democrats. Thank you, Baird. You've been with the party now for way too long or not long enough?
Never long enough. Always excited more.
For those of y'all that don't know Baird, he's actually an anthropologist by training. How'd you transition into our comms director of the party? How did that happen?
So I moved to Houston in 2014 to get my PhD here at Rice. And like so many of us, I got married and ended up staying here. And my research, anthropology, right? Anthropologists can sort of research anything that humans are doing. So my research was participant research with LGBTQ activists in Chile, and specifically looking at the ways that they were using new media and social media, especially to do activism and kind of get the word out about what they were doing. So I spent a few years teaching at the university level, and then transitioned into this role, which is kind of the practical application of a lot of the things that I was thinking about sort of intellectually. But the nice thing about anthropology is the way that we do research is by participating alongside people. So I got a lot of firsthand experience on political messaging, what different audiences want to hear, how we reach different audiences, all that kind of stuff.
Well, by the way, somebody's already pointed out that since I got a new haircut, our haircuts now match. So that's a good thing. I don't have the facial here yet because my wife hates it, but one of these days. Not yet.
We can't all have this thick, luxurious lumberjack beard.
So one of the things that I think a lot of folks don't realize is one of the benefits of the deep canvassing, where we actually had paid, and it was obviously a very expensive proposition. I think it helped. Obviously, didn't save everybody, but it had a big impact on the attempts to reach out in our neighborhoods as Democrats to folks who didn't vote very frequently, but we knew were Democrats. But actually, what I call a walking focus group, where we're actually knocking on the door, as opposed to saying just come out and be for Democrats. For 9 months, we were kind of like, hey, what's important to you? What's the issue you want your Democratic politicians to take care of, as opposed to giving them a choice and saying, you must choose one of these 6 items. And we got a lot of data, 110,000 data that's now in this big database that you helped set up. Why do you think that's going to be so helpful for us going forward?
So I think we did things, we did a couple important things differently from the way that canvassing is normally done. So number one of the reasons that I was brought on board when I was brought on board was to help with that paid canvassing program in the actual kind of like research design phase of it. So, your research is only as good as the methods that you're using and the questions that you're asking. And normally what we do is we give people a sort of like, top 10 list of issues, and we say which one of these issues is most important to you, right? And that's called a deductive approach. What we did is an inductive approach, which means that we start with a super open-ended question. Because whenever you're giving people a multiple choice answer, you're preventing them from giving you any answer that isn't one of those choices, right? And we found that when we asked the question differently, the concerns that people were bringing up were a lot more kind of local and granular than maybe what the national party was focusing on.
All right, let me pause you. Let me translate that from sociology. When you say granular, that means what?
Little tiny, just like individual. So like the sort of everyday the everyday things in your life.
Let me give you an example. You need better sidewalks in your neighborhood. That would be an example of a granular.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it.
So that was going to be my punchline. Yeah. So
sorry. I stepped on your punchline. I do that all the time, Baird. I'm sorry. You were on a rock and roll and I stepped in. I apologize.
So the national campaign focused, rightfully on some really important things, like abortion and reproductive rights, which I want to be really clear that it's not that abortion isn't important to the people that we talk to. We don't have data that says abortion isn't important to them. What we do know is that that is not the issue that is important enough to them to get them to the ballot box, right? And so what we found from these specifically low propensity voters, people who hadn't voted in the last couple cycles, is that the stuff that they were most concerned about is sidewalks, crosswalks. There's potholes in my street. It's not safe for my kids to play outside, right? The electric grid keeps failing. These really kind of like basic quality of life concerns that are unfortunately not being met for a lot of Harris County and Texas residents, right? Because of our completely broken state government. What's great about that is that because those issues are local, we as a local party are much more able to speak to them, right? We have local officials that can help you fix your potholes, right? And that can help you work so that the train isn't blocking you from getting to school every morning, right? So as a local party, we're never going to be able to lead on those kind of federal issues, right? Those national level issues. But what we can do is really focus on the everyday. And that is what so much of the analysis, the early analysis that's coming out of the last election is saying, right? Is that the Democrats need to focus on, quote unquote, the price of eggs and all of the kind of things that actually means.
Well, and I mean, from a very practical standpoint, it actually, I am not going to suggest that everything we did in Harris County was perfect and everything that we did bore absolute fruit. But one of the things that I think most effective, and I'll go ahead and share for those of y'all that haven't seen it, we actually did better down ballot. In other words, electing folks like Christian Menifee, Sean Tier, Annette Ramirez than we had done ever before because we were able to drop the drop off, which happens when people vote at the top of the ticket and then they don't go all the way down. And I think I can share. We'll stop others. All right, I'll just do this. Bingo. Here we go. And for those of y'all that have not seen this, this is some of our messaging that we're able to do based off that focus group. And so if we look at it, what we see is we have abortion access, which is included, but disaster relief funding, strong, voting rights, public education, safer neighborhoods with a spokesperson. And if you see how that impacted, we know that we more or less cut by a third the down ballot drop off, which in the races that were decided less than 30, 40,000 made sure these folks were elected. So as opposed to our local political messaging, and this is the standard flyer that went out, we were able to say, look, from the data that you and the team did, these are things that matter to our voters, safer neighborhoods, public education, making sure that we have disaster relief, that we actually aren't flooding all the time. Those things mattered. And we know it was effective because we had better down ballot performance than we've ever had, better than since straight ticket voting was ended in 2019. And that's the game. Why do you think that works so well?
I mean, it's in some ways it's a really obvious answer, right? Like ask people what they want and then do something about it, right? At its most basic level, that's what we're supposed to be doing in politics, right? Is like trying to help people with the problems that they have. And one party is inventing a bunch of problems for people to have. And the other party is asking what problems people actually have. And I would just like to say, like, not one of these people said anything about trans kids in bathrooms or a lot of these sort of allegedly hot button issues for these Republicans, these kind of like what some people call culture war issues. And those issues are really important, right, to many of us, but not at the expense of, can I afford to feed my children? Is it safe for me to walk to work? Is my neighbor—
Well, along those lines, one I was not surprised at because I ride my bike quite a bit in the inner loop in East End is stray dogs. Big issue, came up, I think, in the top 10,
I think
which
top
have
five.
been
Yeah.
chased a few times. Yeah, top 5. Yeah.
And that is also, so we're still working on this. And this is one thing that I want to say is these data are going to continue bearing fruit, right? We have done some of what we can do with it, right? What happens now is we are in the process of mapping this data actually onto the geography of Harris County and saying like, okay, in, the fifth ward, there's a disproportionate number of people who are saying stray dogs, right? That points to some kind of structural issue that is relatively easy to address, right? Once we know where that issue is, and once we know who the electeds are who are responsible for that area, right? It's much easier for us to actually go into the community and begin to fix the problem. So, these data maybe didn't get us the decisive, you know, huge Texas changing turnout, but they're going to continue bearing fruit over the next few elections as we implement these lessons and get people connected to people who can help them with these issues.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, at the end of the day, you're right. And as Joe Lockett, who's logged on, said, all politics is local. I think our data collection and 110,000 is a lot of data points to be able to put in on there. And I think your point's well taken. It's not that our voters or Americans don't care about protecting the rights of everybody, but at the end of the day, there are certain things that really matter that they need to take care of right now by our political system that's not getting taken care of. Let me switch gears. Twitter. You've had to be the face and exposed to the Twitterverse on behalf of the Democratic Party for the last 8 months. Best part of your job?
I mean, I really like saying snarky stuff to Ted Cruz, and Paul Betancourt and Governor Abbott, who get on that platform and just lie through their teeth multiple times a day to their constituents. That's fun for me because we're smarter than them, so we're always going to be funnier. You're going to ask me about the worst part of the job, I bet.
Well, no, no, no. I mean, I really just focused on Twitter. I mean, what is it like? Because I know that we've had a discussion internally about kind of whether or not we even want to be on Twitter anymore. Where are
Yeah,
you at on all that, and why would we want to bid off this platform
you
potentially?
know, I've come around a little bit on, full disclosure, we had a rough time on Twitter right before the election. There were some really coordinated Republican campaigns paid for by our own dear leader Elon Musk, to sort of swarm anything that we were posting, anything that we were saying. Um, a lot of the leftists and Democrats and moderates have fled Twitter in the post-election afterglow and are now on Blue Sky. Um, so we're engaging on Twitter differently now. Basically, uh, trying to figure out when we feed the trolls, right? When we engage with the people who are obviously just trying to get us to engage with them, versus when do we kind of leave it alone, right? Because you don't necessarily want to give everything as much oxygen as they want to give it. I will say that a thing like across the board on we're on 7 different social media platforms now, I think. Um, and across the board, they are all owned by like billionaire fascists. And so we've seen a big kind of drop in general in our reach. Because the algorithm is now.
Well, let me pause you a minute. By the way, I got an update from Representative Jones. She says she's still in the HTC meeting, but hopefully we'll be able to log on. But when you talk about our reach, so you post something on Twitter or you post something on Facebook, when you say the ownership has impacted our reach, what do you mean?
So we've all probably heard about the algorithm. Maybe we don't all quite know what it is. The algorithm is literally just a series of instructions for a social media platform about what it shows you, when, and how much, right? And at its most neutral, the algorithm shows you more things that are like the things that you want to see and fewer things that are like the things that you don't want to see. In the sort of like Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk era of social media, you're mostly being shown things that you actively don't want to see because it entices you to respond, which is ultimately advertising dollars, right? What social media platform owners want you to do is stay on the platform. They don't care why you're staying on it. And so I call that rage baiting, right? They'll post something
Rage baiting, that's an interesting one, or attention grabbing, same
Yeah,
difference.
it's literally like, how can I make you mad enough to respond to this stupid meme? Right. So I'll see a meme like 20 times a day on the party Facebook that says like, not $1 for student loan forgiveness until every veteran is housed, which, I'm all for housing veterans, but I'm not aware that anyone has offered us the option to do either of those things. Right. And
Not too much.
it's this kind of thing where bots, frankly, are creating content that makes people angry. What that means is that the stuff that we actually want them to see is going down to the very bottom of the pile. And so it means that those of us who are following, Democratic accounts, leftist accounts, what have you, need to work extra hard to be actively sharing and liking and commenting, because we're kind of swimming upstream against this algorithm that is pushing our stuff down. And we have seen a drop off
Well,
in.
it matters if you pay too.
Well, that's the other thing, is Mark Zuckerberg would really like you to pay for paid posts, right? And that would be the way to get more views, but we are not in a position as a local party to pay that quantity of money on a regular basis. But what I meant by reach, sorry, just to get back to the end of that question, is when you post something, you can see not only how many people liked it and how many people commented and stuff, but how many people actually saw it. They're called impressions. And if you look at our content pre and post election, the content has fewer impressions, which means it's showing up in front of fewer people's eyes to begin with. I think Mike might be frozen. We'll give it a minute. All right, well, we'll wait for Mike to get on in a second. I think he's having an internet issue. If anyone in the Q&A has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, we can just enjoy our morning coffee together. Why rice? Okay. So I'll do why rice really quickly. Basically, the way PhD programs work is it's kind of less about where you want to be and more about who you want to work with. And there is a professor at Rice named Simony Howe who works a lot on Latin American social movements. And so I came here to work with her. What, in your
Hey,
opinion?
you need to go ahead and put me back on host if you don't mind. I got knocked off for some reason.
Yes.
So just make me a host and I'll be good to go.
I'm taking questions from the chat.
Perfect.
So what, in your opinion, is the best use of time on social media to push democratic ideas to a distracted public? So I think the best thing you can do is on pretty much every platform, you can favorite accounts that you want to make sure you see every time you log in. I would identify, obviously Harris County Democratic Party, but some other accounts that you also want to make sure to force Facebook or Twitter or whatever to show you whenever you log in, and just make it a part of your sort of routine on social media to just go through and like and share and comment. All of those things help raise the content and helps it get out of people who are already following us, right? Because we don't just want to be preaching to the choir. I would say that fighting with people in the comments has diminishing returns. Especially Facebook is a lot of bots right now. There's a very good chance that you will be arguing with someone who's not even real. So, think about how you want to spend your time there. who are the most active elected and democratic influencers on social? So should we be following? Obviously there's your members of the squad, right? There's your AOC. Elizabeth Warren actually has a great social media game. Texas's own Jasmine Crockett obviously is running a great social media game. Lillian Alexander, who's one of our local judges, is also very popular on social.
What's her hashtag? I'm trying to remember. It's she has a pretty good hashtag, doesn't she?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but just search Lillian Alexander and you'll find her. But she's doing great stuff. And then in terms of outside of actually like elected officials, two influencers that we've worked with are his screen name is Conscious Lee. He's very popular, especially on TikTok. And there is
I found it. It's she's so overdressed is her Instagram hashtag.
there it is. Yeah. Her handle. Yeah. And then there
Man,
is Erica Harrison, who runs Black Girls Who Brunch, which started out as I think like a food review account, basically, like going to brunch. But she's a lawyer and is super involved in politics. So that account has kind of morphed into a lot of really good, concise analysis of what's happening from somebody with enough legal background to kind of cut through the legalese of it all and just kind of explain what's going on.
well, and that's a good point. I mean, when you talk about it, I mean, a lot of these, for lack of a better word, battles in the comments. It doesn't sound. I mean, you tell me, but I personally don't want to argue with a AI device on doing that. In terms of actually amplifying the message, is it really just a matter of liking and sharing, or what do you recommend?
So in terms of what the sort of like average user can do, yeah, and like I said, we're swimming upstream. This is not an overnight process. It's going to take consistent work from all of us. And by work I mean, sitting on your phone and liking things. So it's not the hardest work, but you just have to remember to do it. What I will say is that really what we need to be able to do as the party is actually pay to amplify our messaging. And that is something we can only do once we can reliably keep the lights on. So if you're on this chat and you're not already a sustaining member of the Democratic Party, the Harris County Democratic Party, it starts at just $15 a month and you can get cool Houston specific Democratic swag as our little thank you. And that really does
Well, it helps us pay the staff and pay
it helps
for
us
our
pay the
accounts,
staff.
which is
But
nice.
if we had $10,000 to put behind some Facebook ads, that would be a game changer. Currently, we are relying entirely on the sort of like kindness of Mark Zuckerberg to decide who sees our stuff. And he's about as amoral as they come, so he will take our money if we want to give it to him, right?
Well, what is it? It's not money that is really, it's a love of all money. And so he's not afraid of money, that's for sure. Hey, before we got a few more minutes, I got another update. Joanna Jones, representative, is still on there. She may or may not be on for a few minutes, but let me ask you, you're working hard. And I get by the party offices not every day as much as I can, but I know that everybody there is working hard. Tomorrow we have our open house. If y'all haven't heard about it, share 4 to 6 at our new party headquarters, 3202 Canal. It's literally a mile on the other side of 59 from
3302.
where we're at. Uh, Again,
3302.
30 people will be a block away because I would give them the wrong one. I actually just stepped out of a Congressman Al Green town hall with Senator Boris Miles that Vincent Sanders and our city folks were able to put on for him. We had 100 folks there. We had a volunteer effort last week with over 100 people. Tell me you think that's working so much. Why are people so engaged with our party? Why are people showing up for these events?
I think it's difficult to know how to proceed, right, in this political landscape. It certainly seems like we I think there's a perception that that we, like, as the people, not just the party, are not doing enough. And I think really what's happening is that people after the previous Trump administration have figured out that it didn't really help to give him that much of our mental health and anxiety. And so I think people are looking for ways that they can have a real concrete impact on something. And again, as we've been saying, all politics is local. Politics starts at home, right? Um, and I think, you know, if you build it, they will come, right? We're giving people places where, number one, they can do something good, right? Number two, they can feel like they are having an actual concrete impact. And number three, where they can kind of put that anxiety toward a goal. I know that I'm experiencing way less political anxiety working at the party than I did as a sort of like civilian. Just because I'm working all day, every day to do what I can do, right, in my very small way. And that at least sort of like calms the sort of constant sense of dread, right? And I think one of the traps that we fall into with
Well,
Trump
it's
is
just do
letting
something.
there. Exactly. Trump wants us to be in a state of paralysis. He wants us to be in a constant state of like what's going to happen next, right? But I think we, at least at the local level, have decided that we know what we're going to do, and it's we're going to help our community, right? And we're going to fight back against Donald Trump however we can. But at the end of the day, we have to take care of our community first and make sure that our community is as safe for everybody as it can be. And I think as many opportunities as we and everybody else can offer people, people seem like they really want to do something right now. So let's harness that energy. Let's work together.
Well, and I mean, as a practical matter, we've had a lot of people out starting in January MLK weekend when we were out cleaning up the Columbia Tap Trail. What we've done the last month, we've got other projects going. Obviously, they're on our website. You keep them out there on social media. Where else? I mean, you got lots of opportunities to do work as a Democrat, to actually do work, not just worry. What do you got on the agenda now, just coming up in the next couple of weeks?
So we have our open house tomorrow, which is, yes, there will be, you know, some wine and some cheese, but it's really a great place to be in the same room with a bunch of like-minded people and get some stuff going, right? You don't need to wait for a larger party body to give you permission to do something, right? We can boost, we can organize things as we're able. But I really think the more that we can get all of y'all in a room together and figure out what y'all can do, not only in conjunction with the party, but complementing what the party's doing is great. We have a full list of events, or I guess it's never full, but we have a fuller list of events on our website, harrisdemocrats.org. And that shows not only our events, but all of the events from Democratic clubs, from certain organizations that are, you know, ideologically aligned. There's pretty much always something to do. I think there's a tree planting thing today. There's always something to do. And I would suggest, if you want to make sure that you don't miss any of those things, to go to our website and click the volunteer button, fill out that volunteer form, and that's going to get you on a mailing list, which I promise we do not abuse. But a mailing list where every 2 weeks
And by the
you
way, you get the same benefit if you join, if you're a sustaining member. So 15
correct.
bucks a month, whatever you can do, you're also on the mailing list. And actually, I'd say please, because that's really what we need. We need to, understand that this is a year-round organizing effort, not just showing up at campaigns. And to do that, we need support in every way, including from hardworking staff like Baird. What I love about you, among many things, is that you're responsive. That when I've sent you something tonight, say, "Hey, look, we got to deal with this," you jump on it, and that tells a lot about your dedication and willingness to kind of put in the time and maybe just reduce your worry.
Honestly, yeah, some of it is just like whenever I can have a concrete thing to do that makes me feel like I'm doing something, it's great. Um, but just to finish that thought, we send out every 2 weeks, we send out something called the Blue Report, which is our kind of, if you read no other emails from us, which you should, but if you read no other emails, read the Blue Report, because it's a digest of everything that's coming up in the next 2 weeks and some stuff, you know, that we have done in the previous 2 weeks. So that's where to go if you're looking for a club meeting, if you're looking for a volunteer opportunity. We're going to announce a new day of action, hopefully beginning of next week. We're just firming up the details right now. But yeah, I think the biggest thing you can do is get involved. Don't let Trump convince you that sitting on your couch is the way to go. Obviously, we all need to sit on our couches sometimes, but not all the time, right?
All right, I got one last question for you from Jacob. Can you say the Democrats are the yin and Republicans the yang?
Honestly, I feel like the Democrats are the yin and the Republicans are like playing Parcheesi. Like I don't even I try really hard to not lie to people uh in our messaging, right? And the Republicans have just decided that they're gonna do literally whatever. Yeah, Ted Cruz is one of the biggest yangs ever. Uh I this is a strength and a weakness, I think. Like we're not playing the same game, us and the Republicans. And I think we are figuring out how to participate in their game without making that game the only game that's being played. I think what the Democrats need to do in this next cycle and what we're trying to do right now is stop letting the Republicans dictate every talking point, every message, every like we need to stop being in a place where we're responding to made up controversies and start just saying
That makes sense.
we are Democrats, this is what we believe, this is what's important.
Thank you so much for doing a great job day to day. And by the way, especially for being a surprise guest, I've got to know we're going to get Representative Joanne
No
Jones
one was
on
more
another
surprised than
Saturday.
me.
Yeah. Well, thank you all very much, and we'll see you next Saturday. And by the way, it's up on our YouTube video, or YouTube channel rather, so you're welcome to share. Thank you, Baird. We got lots of stuff going, and hope to see you all tomorrow at our open house at the party at 3302 Canal.
Thanks, y'all.